today's project's been inspired by Adele, who comes to pottery classes, and she's just made these lovely tea light holders, and when I saw them I thought, actually, what a great Valentine's project. So I'm just going to go over how to build with a slab. This one's actually been built with a wraparound join where the clay folds one side over the other. I'm going to show you another way of joining the edges, which is slightly beveled, so you get a little bit of a finer finish to that join. So you need to get yourself something that you can wrap the clay around. So this is a Bisto tub, other gravies are available. And if you've got some paper, newspaper, just make a template that's going to slightly overlap like that, because it's better to have a bit too much clay than not enough to work with. And then take your clay and your guides. As I've said before, you can use things like magazines. Somebody told me today they used 2 chopping boards just to get that thickness even. Just get the rolling pin. So lay out your clay onto your rolling cloth or tea towel or pillow slip, anything that's going to stop the clay from sticking to the table. And you're going to roll over it until there is an even roll over the clay like so. You know that then that's an even thickness. Then you could take something like a credit card. If you've got the toolkit, you'd have a nice metal kidney like these, or if you're fortunate enough, you'll have yourself a rubber kidney, and you can just clean up that clay before you lay the template on. And then take your template, lay that onto the clay. I was hoping there might be enough for the base there, but maybe not quite enough. So just put the template on there, and then you can use a ruler. I'm just going to use the rolling guides for ease, and just trim around that template. So if your clay is a little bit sticky, you could take a hairdryer to it at this point, just to dry it off a little bit before you start to work around the form. What I'd like to do before I actually put it around the form as well is to do some imprints. So the imprints are best done at this stage. Any cutouts, like on Adele's, are better done once it's been formed. Because quite often if you try and cut that out first then form it, you get little cracks in the cutouts. So I've smoothed that out. I'm now going to have a think about what I'd like to stamp into the piece. So anything like rubber stamps like this one, for card making. Indian stamps are really lovely, wooden Indian stamps. Or you could make your own. So here is just some clay that's been shaped and formed, and then on the end I've just shaped a flower, and then that's been fired, so that can be used. And for the cutouts, I've got these little cake cutouts. A lot of cake supply items are great for clay, so have a hunt around, see what you've got. So I think I'm going to use the Indian stamp. So I want to think about how the clay is going to be when it's stood up, and I'm going to just put a few of those onto the piece, and they'll be lovely with some oxides or colours rubbed into the stamps afterwards. So cutting the bevel, I'm going to rotate the clay round this way. And what you want to do is cut the same way. As you look into the clay, cut the bevel in the same direction. So I'm going to do it just freehand. So I'm going to cut down And then remember, we're cutting in the same direction, so I'm going to cut down again this way, like so. Okay, so I'm just going to add one more little stamp because it looks like a little bit bare there. Just going to add that in there. So just feel what your clay is like. You're going to be wrapping it around something anyway, but you want it to kind of almost being able to stand up on its own before you start to wrap it around. So what I'm going to do with those beveled edges now, I'm going to scratch and slip those edges together. So before you wrap the clay around, use the template that you cut the clay out with and wrap that around your former. So your former could be anything like a tomato tin, a bean tin. If you're putting paper around it anyway, it won't stick, so that should work out okay. So what I'm going to do then is offer up the mould, the former, to the clay rather than standing the clay up. So I'm just going to pull that clay around the edge. While that's there, just going to scratch that beveled edge like that. I'm just going to scratch that beveled edge. You could do that with a knife or with a fork, whatever you've got to hand, and then plenty of slip on that join. And then I'm going to press those two beveled edges, should come together, just going to press those together like that. So you should end up with a much cleaner join. And then take something like your credit card or again your rubber kidney or a wooden tool, and you're just going to work over that join. And what you want to do as well is just kind of press it so you know that it's really joined well together, like that. Okay, so now that can be stood upright, like that. I'm just going to join that top edge and underneath. Now it's up to you with these tea light holders, it's up to you whether you put a base on it or not. You might just think you're going to slip it over the tea light. You might want a base. Some people make a separate base and then slot the tea light onto that. So either way that would work. So what I'm going to do now is use the cutout. So you can see it's like a plunger. So because we've got the former still on there, I'll use a bigger one so you can see the shape. Press against the former like that. Hold the clay as you pull it away, and then you end up with these little hearts like that, which then can be stuck back onto your form if you want to, like so. Again, scratching and slipping those as you go. So I've just scored and slipped and added some of those cutouts that we cut out from the form. And you can see already, because I've got that paper round the former, that paper has stuck to the shape and the former is quite free. So once you've dried it off, or you could just leave it for a couple of hours, then you could take your former out, and then your paper should just twist out and pull away. And there's your Valentine's candle holder.